Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Adventures Guild. I just wrapped up 2 episodes, one dealing with the werewolves in Maine that attacked a family, and the second episode is one that I grew up with in California, the story of this lost cave called Cocoa Reef. And at the bottom of this cave is a canyon, and this canyon stretches for miles and miles and miles underground. And at the bottom of the canyon is this river, and on the banks of the river is this black sand that contains an incredible amount of gold. Now I'm wrapping up 2 more episodes, and today's episode is dealing with a Headless Horseman. We've all heard of the Headless Horseman, however, this one doesn't take place in the Northeast, and it doesn't concern Ichabod Crane. This is an actual historical event that took place in Texas, and I'll get into that later on in this episode. And after I finish up this episode, the next one that I'll be posting deals with one of the most terrifying hauntings in Texas that even involves deaths. Recently in the 1980s, and it's located just outside of Houston, Texas. But let's get on with today's episode. Now, what should be common knowledge, but a lot of people throughout the United States don't know, is that Texas was its own country in 1836. It won its independence from Mexico. In the 1840s, it joins the United States, and in 1845, Mexico invades the United States, kills some U.S. soldiers, and starts the Mexican-American War. After this, there was a lot of raids that came across from Mexico into Texas, and they would steal horses, gold, anything they could get their hands on, and they'd take it back to Mexico. Now, one such raider that came across the border, his name was Vidal, and he took advantage of the situation where the Comanches had came out of Oklahoma and were raiding North Texas. It drew all the Texas Rangers up there to deal with it, so there was hardly any law in the southern part of Texas. He was able to swoop through and take all the horses and rob all the people he wanted without any fear of consequences. However, he messed with the wrong man. He stole horses from a man named Creed Taylor, who was a well-known Texas Ranger and was not up north. He was at home on his ranch. When Creed Taylor had noticed his horses were stolen, he rode to his neighbor's house and good friend Flores. Flores had also been the victim of Vidal. The two of them got together, mounted the horses that they had, and they rode after these bandits. Along the way, they met a man that is a Texas legend. His name is Bigfoot Wallace. And they tell him about their situation and ask if he'll join. And it took little persuasion to get this man of adventure to join their ranks. So they catch up with Vidal. And even though they're heavily outnumbered, they fall upon Vidal and his followers, and they wipe them all out. Now, they're tired of these raiders coming across the border, and they've tried everything they can to deter them, such as just leaving their bodies hanging in trees. Nothing's working, so this time, Bigfoot Wallace has a plan. He takes and decapitates Vidal's body, and then he takes and makes this rigging harness on Vidal's horse, and he saddles Vidal up on his horse, has him sitting straight up, and then he takes Vidal's hands and he ties them to the pommel, and slings Vidal's head over the horse, and together Flores, Taylor, and Wallace slap the horse and send it off running on its way. Now the horse rides back and forth throughout Texas for 2 years. The body eventually breaks free from the harness and it's hunched over, but it's still on the horse and it rides back and forth. After 2 years, somewhere around Alice, Texas, some ranchers are able to capture the horse. And they remove Vidal's body, and when they do, they find arrows in it, and it's riddled with bullets where people have shot it, in terror and fear of it. And they bury his body, and they set his horse free. However, this does not end the sightings. All the way over in Uvalde, Texas, at Fort Ingle, the soldiers there continue to see a headless horseman ride back and forth in front of their fort. He starts to be seen throughout a lot of South Texas, especially around Freer and Alice. The sightings continue all the way through the rest of the 1800s and into the 1900s, and he becomes known as El Muerto, the dead one. Fast forward to 1917. There's a family that's come to San Diego, Texas, right on the 44, and they're just to the west of town, and they're on a farm, and they're there to pick the crops, and they camp right there while they're, working. And so the family's huddled around a fire when a headless horseman rides up, and starts shouting at them in Spanish that it's mine, all mine, or something along the lines of this. Now we go up to 1969, and there's a family that's just east of Freer, Texas on the 44, and they too witness the Headless Horseman, El Muerto. The sightings continue all the way into the 2000s, and a trucker saw the Headless Horseman on his way to Freer, but it didn't say which highway he was on. The last possible sighting that I found any information on took place in 2011 when a group of teens left to go partying from Freer, Texas, and they started heading east on Highway 44. And along the way, there's a number of abandoned homes. Well, they picked one, and they set up in there, and they started getting the party going. They took a barbecue and broke the legs off of it, and they set it on the floor, built a nice toasty fire in it, when they heard a man outside of the house start yelling at them. And he's shouting profanities and cussing at them in Spanish. And the kids are terrified, and so they douse the fire and they hide. One girl was so scared that she grabbed her cell phone and called her father, even though she was going to get in trouble. And she told him that they were in great danger. So he grabs a rifle, jumps in his truck, and barrel houses to where she's at. Meanwhile, the teens are all hiding in the house while this madman's going back and forth riding his horse and yelling at them. And when he gets in front of the house and he's right in the middle of this loud insult, he goes dead silent as the entire house lights up. It was the headlights of her father's truck. Her father jumps out of the truck with his gun. He goes back and forth around the house, and it's clear there's nobody there. He yells at his daughter to get in the truck and for the rest of the teens to go home. Everybody makes it home safely. The next day, the boys are telling some of their friends about what had happened, and they got laughed at. So to prove their story, they went back to the house with a camera and decided to take some pictures of the horseshoe tracks around the home. However, there was none. And because they didn't make a positive ID of the Headless Horseman, we can't make this a confirmed sighting. However, it does fit the profile of the Headless Horseman, El Muerto. All right, guys, if you're enjoying this episode, be sure to smash that subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. I can't continue to provide you guys with free places to go treasure hunting, ghost hunting, and look for cryptids without subscribers. This is super important. Please, if you enjoy the channel, make sure to subscribe. So if you want to go on an adventure, be sure to travel down to either Freer, Texas or to Alice, Texas, and then take Highway 44 to the other city at night and see if you catch the Headless Horseman along the way. And if you do, be sure to use caution. That's going to do it for this episode. Be sure to click on that logo to subscribe or watch one of these videos. And until next time, we're off on another adventure. God bless.